Hello my dear friends, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today is story time. Today I'm going to share my MS story. I was diagnosed on May 25th, 2017, and I'm posting this video on May 25th, 2019, my 2-year diagnosis-versary. It is a real word to those who have been diagnosed with chronic illness and disease. It also happens to be National Wine Day here in the United States, and every year I raise a glass and toast to my good health. This year I would like to invite you to join me, so please feel free to pause the video, go pour yourself a glass of your favorite wine, and join me back here for a toast. Here's to you, my friends, and your continued good health. And if you don't have good health, here's to your spiritual and emotional well-being to help you get through those days where you don't have such good health. All right, back to my story. So I was diagnosed in 2017, but my story goes way, way back. Once upon a time, 12 years prior to my diagnosis, I had my first discernible MS symptoms. I had some weakness on the right side, particularly in my right foot. I was having some difficulty walking, I was tripping, I was stumbling. So I went to the doctor and said, "Hey doc, I'm having some weakness on the right side and I'm having some problems walking." So he did an exam, he did a neurological exam. And he said, "Yep, you're right, you have some weakness on the right side. Let's get some blood work done and see if we can figure out what's going on." So I said, okay. Off I went, got some blood work done, and a couple of days later, while we were waiting for the results, my foot got considerably worse. I was really having a hard time walking. My foot was just kind of hanging, and I was having a difficult time lifting it when I took steps. Classic drop foot. I didn't know that at the time because I was not familiar with MS at all, so I just knew I was having problems walking. So I went back to the doctor and said, "Hey doc, it's really gotten worse." He examined me again and he confirmed, "Yep, it's gotten worse. I'd like to send you for a set of MRIs today." I said, okay, so off I went and had a set of MRIs. And they said, okay, the doctor will contact you. The next day the doctor did contact me and he said, "Yep, we see something on your spine and your neck and I'd like you to go see a neurosurgeon." Wow, that escalated quickly. So the next day, my husband and I went to see a neurosurgeon, and he looked at my MRIs, and he examined me, and he said, "Yep, there's definitely something there. I'd like to admit you to the hospital." Well, okay, when? Now. Right now? Right now. Go over to admitting. I will call them and let them know that you're coming. So off we went to the hospital, got me admitted, got me into my room, more tests started. One of those tests was a lumbar puncture or a spinal tap. And for those who are not familiar with this lovely test, they come at you with a needle and they insert it into your lower back as you're hunched over in between your vertebrae and into your spine, and they pull out some spinal fluid to look at. Yeah, it's about as much fun as it sounds. Then they laid me flat on the bed and they said, "Yeah, you may not want to move for a couple of hours or you may get a really bad migraine." Okay, so there I laid. Eventually the neurosurgeon came back to visit me and he brought along a neurologist. And he came into my room and he said, "Good news, it's not a tumor. Hooray! But there is a lesion on your spine and I would like you to meet your new neurologist." So they hooked me up to IV steroids. I stayed in the hospital for the weekend. I did not sleep for 3 days. Thank you, steroids. And I was sent home on Monday with pill form of steroids to step down with instructions to follow up with my new neurologist. And a word about my new neurologist. First impressions. He looked like he was about 12 years old. But I convinced myself this was a good thing because he probably just graduated from medical school and he was up on the latest and greatest training. So I loved my new neurologist. He was awesome. I went to see him and he said, let's take a conservative approach. We're not convinced it's MS. MS is a very difficult disease to diagnose. I would like to monitor you for a while. I was good with that because MS did not sound like any fun at all. So I was good with that. I'm a glasses half full kind of girl. So I wanted to take the positive approach of maybe it's not MS. I started doing yoga to help get my balance back and my strength back. And I started doing meditation to deal with stress. And I also started to pay more attention to my diet, more vegetarian, more towards a whole foods, plant-based diet. And so I followed up with my neurologist every 6 months. And for 2 years, I had a set of MRIs and a visit with my neurologist for an exam. And after 2 years, he was like, yeah, your brain looks pretty unremarkable. I don't see any changes. We don't see any new symptoms. We're going to call it a monophasic event. A what now? Come again? A monophasic event, a one-time thing. And I was thrilled. This is my new favorite phrase, a monophasic event. So off I went living my life. Everything was good. I continued with my yoga, my meditation. I moved even closer to a vegan diet, definitely more whole foods, plant-based, got rid of the processed foods or minimized the processed foods and went happily along. Then in the fall of 2015, I started to get some numbness on the left side, in my left hand and the 2 fingers on my left hand and down the side of my left leg and into the left side of my foot. And like most people, I just ignored it. Who wants to admit that you have something wrong with you? But it was interfering with my gait a little bit, and when I exercised, it got worse. And there was some pain on the bottom of my foot. And sometimes I had some muscle spasms. And over that winter, I noticed I was a little more tired, some fatigue, and I didn't recover as quickly or as easily from colds and flus. So in the spring, I decided, yeah, I better call the doctor. So back I went, more MRIs, a nerve conduction study. The doctor examined me and said, we really don't see much. Let's wait 6 months and do a comparison. Okay, I was happy with that because who wants to be diagnosed with MS? So off I went. 6 months later, came back, more MRIs, more nerve conduction studies. And he said, yeah, we really don't see much. Why don't you go see an orthopedic group? So I went to an orthopedic group, saw 2 different doctors, lots of x-rays. They didn't see anything either. So they said, why don't you go see a spine surgeon? I said, all right, I'll go see a spine surgeon. He looked at my MRIs and he looked at me and says, I know exactly what's wrong with you. See, in your neck, there's some narrowing in the spinal column and your discs are pushing on the gray matter and this is what's causing your symptoms. Okay, what do you do about that? He said, we're going to cut you from the front, we're going to go into the back, and we're going to fuse 2 or 3 of your discs. Wow, again, that escalated quickly. I said, okay, doc, that seems like pretty major surgery. I'm going to get a second opinion. To which he replied, that's fine, but if you do that, don't come back to me. I said, excuse me? And he backpedaled a little bit and said, no, what I mean is if you go to another doctor and they do surgery, don't come back to me and expect me to be able to fix it. Yeah, that didn't sit well with me. So I left that office and decided to go see a different kind of doctor. My husband had had some disc problems in his lower back the previous summer, and he went to see a physiatrist. So I made an appointment with the physiatrist office and went to see them. And the physician's assistant came in and looked at my MRIs and did an exam and said, yeah, I don't think you should get that surgery. Do you mind if I consult with the physiatrist? I'll be right back. So off he went. He came back in, brought the physiatrist with him, and the physiatrist looked at my MRIs and he said, 100% do not get that surgery. But I am worried about you. Oh, okay. So what next? He said, I'd like you to go see a neurologist friend of mine at the hospital for special care. So we go see the neurologist at the hospital for special care, and he does an extensive nerve conduction study. And someday I'm going to do a video just about nerve conduction studies because they're fascinating. He finished his study and he said, yeah, there's nothing wrong with your arms and legs. This is definitely your central nervous system. I would like you to go to the Mandel MS Center. The Mandel MS Center is the Multiple Sclerosis Center here in Connecticut. So off we went to the Mandel MS Center where I had a lot more tests, a lot more blood work. MS is very difficult to diagnose, so they have to rule out everything else first. And they're looking for Lyme's disease and other autoimmune conditions. And on May 25th, 2017, I was told that I had multiple sclerosis. Even though I probably knew that I had MS, it was still very difficult to hear. It's devastating to hear that you have a progressive, degenerative, incurable disease. They sent me home with a bunch of glossy pamphlets from the pharmaceutical companies of different drugs that I could consider to treat my MS. And according to these really pretty pamphlets, I was going to be able to hike mountains and paint and ride bikes and ride horses. It really looked great. But all the drugs come with significant side effects. So I got on the internet and I started searching for complementary and alternative therapies that I could use to help with my MS. And I came across the Overcoming MS program out of Australia. I'll put a link in the description below. And it made perfect sense to me. It is a combination of diet, lifestyle, and medication to help control the symptoms of MS. And I truly believe the diet and lifestyle changes that I implemented after my first symptoms helped keep me relapse-free for almost 11 years. So that's my story. I'm not going to say the end because there is no end when you have an incurable disease, but I am committed to living well with this disease and using a combination of diet, lifestyle, and medication to help slow it down or stop the progression, I hope. If you would like to see more videos, please subscribe and hit the bell so you get notifications. Also, please leave a comment below introducing yourself. I would love to get to know you.